Senator,
and
listen, we're trying to help. We're trying to actually do.
Where are you in the 37 states that currently have price gouging laws?
Just quickly on that point, Senator Warren,
can you
just tell here, can I just clarify how this would work?
This is the way you never lose an argument, because no one can ever say anything back to you, Senator.
The state price gouging laws.
An astounding exchange this morning on CNBC between Senator Elizabeth Warren and the panel. Elizabeth Warren was called on to try her best to explain that the new economic policies presented by the Democrats this week in Chicago are very mainstream, very pragmatic, and not socialist at all. And it didn't go well for the good senator of Massachusetts. Watch this.
And that is a time in
that's
any
sophistry. Your example on Kraft. Your example on Kraft is even worse.
You finished first. In any of the states around the country that already have price gouging laws,
can I tell you why that those are fallacious and misleading at best? And your Kraft analogy is even. Why can't I tell you? Please let me tell you. Kraft, you say, was 440% profit increase. The example you used, the prior quarter from the year before, they had a charge of $1.3 billion, an accounting change which wiped out profits. Then they earned what they normally. Let me finish now. They earned.
You didn't let me finish. Look at the data. Come on. We have economic study now after economic study.
This is the way it always goes.
When there is more concentration,
40 million eggs were destroyed because of avian flu.
When there is more concentration in an industry, we have seen much greater increases in.
Do you attribute the inflation? Margins. That's what you think we need to do to solve it?
They're not random. They are not random one-offs. It is part of the problem when you've got companies that are gouging consumers on prices. Consumers need to know they've got somebody on their side.
Senator,
and
listen, we're trying to help. We're trying to actually do.
Where are you in the 37 states that currently have price gouging laws?
Just quickly on that point, Senator Warren, can you just tell here, can I just clarify how this would work?
This is the way you never lose an argument, because no one can ever say anything back to you, Senator.
The state price gouging laws take a.
It is frustrating, but frankly, riveting television. And it's quite, I think, revealing, Akash, because they keep making this charge about corporate price gouging, corporate price gouging. You ask for evidence. And as you saw there, she says, well, look at Kraft. They made, 400% profit. Well, first of all, that's not evidence of price gouging. But as was pointed out, the year before, they ended up having to wipe out all of their profits because they lost so much. These year-to-year numbers don't prove that there's corporate greed happening here. But this is how they're communicating their rationale for this takeover of the economy with their price controls. This is the real conversation that needs to be had here, isn't it?
No, you're exactly right. Republicans should be hammering this point home. The American people understand this intrinsically, that corporate greed and price gouging is not the reason prices are up. Prices are up almost 20% since Joe Biden and Kamala Harris took office, because they spent an additional $6 trillion and added $1 trillion worth of regulations onto the economy. It should be no surprise that prices are up. But if you look at food and groceries specifically, Larry, grocery stores have a profit margin on average in 2023 of 1%. 1% profit margin. And off the top of my head, I can name 15 different chains of grocery stores. There is no corporate consolidation like she's talking about. There's no price gouging. This stuff is complete nonsense, grasping at straws. And she's like masquerading as a smart person trying to make this point because they are just so desperate to deflect from their own responsibility. We put out a great report on this greedflation concept at americansforprosperity.org that folks can go in and see this whole claim debunked. But I think the American people simply know that it, on their face, that it is not correct. There's no corporate consolidation and price gouging in the grocery industry driving up food prices. It's just reckless spending and regulation from the Democrats.
It's true. You guys at AFP have been putting out so much great stuff on this, about the Biden economy and exactly how his policies have hurt us. And to believe Elizabeth Warren, Sarah, you would have to think that corporations all were fine. They weren't greedy at all for, the last 10, 12 years. But then as soon as Joe Biden became president, they all decided at the same time, hey, now's the time to price gouge. Is anyone going to buy that?
No, and this is the exact reason why Democrats need to have their policy proposals on, especially the Harris Waltz website. They can't even get their talking points in order. She wasted the hit by arguing with Joe Kernen. It was disgusting. And here's the thing.
Yeah, wait, I want to jump in there because I want people to know, Sarah, you used to be a comms director for people on Capitol Hill. If this was your principal, would you have a conversation afterwards saying, Senator, you didn't come across as well as you want, and here's why?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things you have to consider is you have to keep it short and sweet. I've done this a million times. I used to love putting my Republican bosses on CNN, MSNBC, because it made them better communicators. Right now, we're seeing the Democrats eat their own. And they think it's going to be friendly, it's going to be a softball, but Democrats, especially Harris, they're not showing up for interviews, so nobody knows what to say. And honestly, this hit is the perfect reason to have term limits. She didn't know what she was saying. She couldn't communicate. And her cadence was just so long that she couldn't even get to it.
And Jim Hansen, there's another thing here. I'm old enough to remember, because it's not that long ago. In fact, I remember interviewing at the time about the White House calling this the Putin inflation. This was all Putin's fault for invading Ukraine. Remember that talking point from 2 years ago? First, they denied there was inflation. Then when it was impossible to deny, well, it was all Vladimir Putin's fault and foreign policy was affecting our economy. And now it's corporate greed. It's almost like they're making it up, Jim.
Oh my gosh. No, it's come on. It's the expediency of the moment in a 24/7 news cycle. They assume nobody is paying attention except the few of us who are. And now we get to go ahead and tell them. And again, they're stuck with the fact that they have to answer for all of these bad ideas and bad policies. And Kamala's in the position of saying, if you don't like what's going on, hire me for more of the same. And actually, I'm going to take a rapid left turn to make it even worse. The policies that I support are ones that have been proven for decades, hundreds of years now, to destroy economies. If you want to talk about price gouging, we're going to find out under a Harris and Waltz economy what the market value of zebra meat is when we run out of food and they're eating zoo animals like they have down in South America when they tried this. So I don't think they have any option other than to continue to lie. And they have, remember, this is America, short attention span theater is the game, but they have yet to be called out on it. And the fact that people on CNBC and even on CNN are being allowed to question this shows that when they actually sit down for interviews and when they actually sit down for debates or stand for debates, they are going to be hit with their bad ideas. And it's not going to come off even as well as Elizabeth Warren, which was awful.
Hold on. Is that really a thing? The whole eating the zebras in the zoo because you can't have
it? Oh, yeah.
That would not be the first animal I would go for. I would go for like a gazelle or an antelope. I would think that would be closer to venison, Jim.
I don't know. Yeah, it's a horse. Well, it depends what's left. They probably grabbed the nice, fluffy little venison-like animals first.
I suppose that's true.
Hippos.
Yeah. Leave the otters alone. I love the otters. We should all be eating those pandas, by the way. First of all, Chinese food is always good to eat. And there's a whole lot of fat on those animals. It's going to look... I digress.